Welcome back, OSers, to the 2016 Stevies. We are unveiling the Best Gameplay Award winner today. And, well, my name is Chris Sanner. I am the editor here. That's the man who swings the band hammer, the other Chris, a.k.a. Millennium, a.k.a. What Millennium is it for anyways?
It was for a previous millennium, long to the days of sports gaming yore.
Was that when we actually had like 6 games per sport and, these awards were like incredibly difficult? We actually awarded them by sport. Is that what you're talking about?
It's back in the day where I could throw elbows in NBA Jam in the arcades and run. Just keep running that arcade console. I remember that so vividly.
So let's unveil the best gameplay this year. We'll go from 4 to 1 again. Very interesting category, this one. Let's start off first with number 4. Pro Evolution Soccer 17 with 12.5% of the vote. Number 3, Madden NFL 17 with 14% of the vote. Number 2, perhaps surprising for some, NBA 2K17 with 24% of the vote. And number 1, MLB The Show 16 at 29.5% of the vote. Chris, this one might surprise a few people. What do you think?
Well, let's talk about first PES. PES beating out FIFA in this vote is huge. PES has been around long enough now where enough people have gotten word of mouth, and that's how PES is selling now. They're selling on word of mouth. It's not any kind of advertising. So PES has gotten so good that so many people have stated, hey, look, the gameplay in this thing is huge. PES being 4 is a huge win for them. Madden's zone upgrades this year, their run game upgrades this year, they're getting closer and closer to realistic football. We're seeing that in the Madden Classic. We're seeing that in their online tournaments to where it's not the same play over and over. So I'm glad to see Madden at 3. NBA 2K17 is the surprise here, but I think it's finally gotten to the point where the entry point for NBA 2K17 may be a little high for casual users. A lot of people like to play on Superstar because that is the quote-unquote sim level. And on that level, you have to be very meticulous with what you're setting up in terms of defense. And I think a lot of people are seeing issues with their defense and issues with gameplay that are due to not fully understanding what's going on the court. And I think NBA has to learn to teach that a little better. Their 2KU is one of the most lackluster in terms of training tutorial systems in games. I would love to see NBA 2K17 or NBA 2K18 with a full tutorial mode that shows all of the settings and what they do. I think that puts them back on top of gameplay for this year.
For sure. And when we talk about MLB The Show 16, in my opinion, it's always had really good gameplay. Baseball, though, some may say, is a lot easier to replicate than other sports. What do you think about that line of thinking?
I think it's easier in the field, but batter-pitcher interaction is one of the most complex things in sports. Like, what pitch is going to be thrown next? I often will put CPU versus CPU on, and it's like a real pitching matchup. Like, I can call pitches and like I would in real life and say, all right, this is what they should be pitching. And they do that in MLB The Show. So MLB The Show being the most, I think it's the closest recreation to the real life sport on the field more so than any of the sports games. That being said, even MLB The Show has some areas animation wise they could work on for next year.
I agree with that. We're actually finding out a lot of what MLB The Show is going to be doing this next year. Very exciting, actually, to see the gameplay changes and such. We're really getting into a point with gameplay in sports games when we're really dealing with minutia of sports in a lot of cases. You know, when we're talking about different hit styles and how the ball spins around a base and around the base pass. That's just... We're really getting into the point where, we've really gotten to a good point in sports gaming. Now, with the Show 16, I agree with that 100%. I feel like I'm playing actual baseball a lot of the time. Now, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of minutia they haven't exactly mastered, but I can sit there and guess and wonder, am I going to get a high fastball here? Is this guy going to throw a curveball low and outside of the zone again? You have to sit there and think about that, and that's baseball. It's awesome. So the guys at Sony have just done an incredible job with this game. In my opinion, again, on what we just talked about, I don't think that baseball is as easy to replicate as some would say because of the pitcher-batter matchup. And what Sony has done, it's far and away better than anything else that's been done thus far. And I don't know. I just really, this game deserved this award, I think.
I agree. I absolutely agree that MLB The Show is the best gameplay in terms of sports games. I think in years past, they were probably, I don't know what the exact voting was, but I think it was a larger span in voting. I think, as you said, though, all sports games are coming much, much closer to having great gameplay. So it's very important for every one of them to continue to evolve and continue to tune, as you said, the minutia, because we're all nitpicking smaller issues now.
That's for sure. Now, I just got to say one last thing on this category. It is interesting to me, you mentioned it earlier, that PES is on here and FIFA isn't. I think, honestly, not to start a PES FIFA flame war, but PES has done an incredible job. I played that game quite a bit this year, and on the pitch, it's just an incredible experience.
I agree. I think PES is, and again, this is not an overnight thing for PES. This is something PES has been working towards for a few years, and it's the reason it's in 4 right now is because they have tuned their on-field gameplay. They have barely any licenses, especially for Premier League. FIFA has locked those up. So what you're seeing now is word of mouth from people that have played PES, seen video of PES, seen highlights of PES, and seen, well, wow, those are things I don't see in FIFA. So FIFA concentrated this year on a story mode in terms of and entering the Frostbite engine and, like I said, the journey. I think FIFA really has to go back to getting on the pitch gameplay back to where it needs to go to match up with what PES does.
For sure. Well, that's the gameplay category. We are counting down to the sports game of the year. We'll be unveiling that one toward the end of the week. I'm Chris. He's Chris. And we'll see you next time.